15. Black celebrities who married ugly wives. They had the fame, they had the fortune, but what they didn't see coming was the woman they married. From shocking affairs to ruthless financial takedowns, these 15 black legends were left devastated not by their enemies, but by their own wives, and the world called them ugly. That's just the surface. What lies beneath will leave you speechless. You thought you knew these men think again. Hit that like, smash, subscribe, and turn on notifications because Legends of Black Excellence is about to reveal the brutal truth behind Hollywood's most heartbreaking marriages. Ray Charles. Ray Charles was the embodiment of musical brilliance, a blind maestro who defied every barrier to become a global icon. With chart-topping hits like Georgia on My Mind and I Got a Woman. Charles redefined soul, blues, and gospel, leaving a permanent mark on American music. But while the world applauded his genius, a slow and painful storm brewed in his personal life, one tied to the very woman who stood beside him for over 2 decades. In 1955, Ray married Della Beatrice Howard Robinson, a church-going woman with no ties to the spotlight. To fans accustomed to glamorous pairings, Della seemed unremarkable, far from the showbiz beauty people imagined would share the bed of a star. But Ray wasn't concerned with appearances. He saw loyalty, or so he thought. Their union brought 3 sons, and for years Della managed the household while Ray traveled the world. However, beneath the surface, cracks formed. Ray's grueling tour schedule left him absent, while Della began spending money with no restraint. Designer clothing, opulent home decor, and extended vacations became routine. By the late 1960s, rumors swirled about her involvement with someone on Ray's own tour staff. The betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was deeply personal, striking at the heart of his trusted circle. When insiders like Quincy Jones later confirmed the affair, Ray's carefully guarded private life began unraveling. Despite his immense fame, he was a man drowning in marital resentment and financial instability. Della's unrelenting spending only deepened the crisis. As Charles battled heroin addiction and mounting career pressures, his wife's extravagance became a relentless drain. The couple officially divorced in 1977, marking the end of a 22-year marriage. Della emerged from the split with custody of the children, approximately $1 million in settlement, an enormous sum at the time, and possession of a luxurious Los Angeles property. For Ray, the divorce was devastating both emotionally and economically. Already facing tax issues and dwindling record sales, the settlement nearly collapsed his finances. Yet Ray never publicly criticized Della. He buried his pain behind dark glasses and continued performing, rebuilding his reputation note by note. Still, the marriage that had once promised stability had instead become one of the deepest scars in his life. Behind every soulful lyric he sang, there was a man trying to reclaim something he had lost: trust, peace, and love. His story serves as a haunting reminder that even the greatest talents can fall victim to private betrayals that no stage spotlight can ever expose. Sam Cooke. Sam Cooke wasn't just a pioneer of soul music, he was its heartbeat. With unforgettable classics like You Send Me and A Change Is Gonna Come. Cooke fused gospel-rooted vocals with secular appeal, redefining the possibilities for black artists in America. But while his career soared, his private life collapsed under the weight of deceit, ambition, and a marriage that would forever stain his legacy. In 1958, Cooke married Barbara Campbell, a woman he had known since their teenage years in Chicago. She wasn't a glamorous starlet or a fashion icon, but a regular woman with deep ties to the local music scene. Many saw her as a grounding force for Sam, the perfect match for a rising star. But behind closed doors, their union was a ticking time bomb. As Sam toured relentlessly and climbed to fame, Barbara remained at home with their children, but not alone. Rumors of infidelity swirled on both sides. While Cooke faced accusations of womanizing and late-night escapades, Barbara was allegedly involved with a neighborhood bartender. The whispers turned undeniable when at Cook's funeral in 1964, the man arrived shamelessly wearing the late singer's ring and wristwatch, a public confirmation that shook his family to the core. The betrayal didn't stop there. Just 77 days after Sam's death, Barbara married Bobby Womack, Sam's close friend and musical protege. The wedding caused uproar, especially when it became known that Womack wore Sam's clothes during the ceremony. The Cook family was incensed. Sam's brother Charles physically assaulted Bobby afterward, unable to bear the disrespect. Worse still, Barbara later discovered Bobby's affair with her daughter Linda, then still a teenager. Enraged, she shot at him in their home in 1970. He survived, but the marriage collapsed instantly, confirming the toxic pattern that had followed Barbara for years. Meanwhile, she took control of Sam's music catalog and business interests. The Cook family claimed she funneled revenue to herself and Womack, leaving Sam's biological children with little inheritance. His artistic empire, built with sweat, faith, and genius, was reduced to court disputes and fractured royalties. For a man who sang about love, justice, and hope, Sam Cooke's real-life romance became a tragedy worthy of opera. The world mourned the singer, but few could fathom the turmoil left behind by the woman who shared his name, a legacy marred by betrayal, scandal, and irreversible loss. O.J. Simpson. At one time, O.J. Simpson was the epitome of American success, a record-breaking NFL star turned charismatic Hollywood actor. With roles in The Naked Gun and a high-profile sports commentary career, Simpson became a household name. But his name is now inseparable from the most infamous celebrity crime story in U.S. history, and it all stems from a marriage that spiraled into madness. Simpson met Nicole Brown in 1977 when she was just 18, working as a waitress at an upscale Beverly Hills nightclub. At the time, O.J. was still married to his first wife, but he left that relationship behind to pursue Nicole. By 1985, they were married. Nicole wasn't a beauty queen by Hollywood standards. Some tabloids even criticized her for being ordinary-looking, but she was magnetic to Simpson, who quickly became obsessed. Behind their Brentwood mansion's doors was a volatile relationship riddled with physical altercations, jealousy, and emotional warfare. Nicole once called 911 in terror, claiming O.J. was going to kill her. He later admitted to breaking furniture during arguments. Friends said their fights were frequent and explosive, a toxic mix of passion, power, and paranoia. Despite their 1992 divorce, the entanglement continued. Nicole had an affair with Marcus Allen, a close friend of O.J., which sent him into a downward spiral of rage and suspicion. He stalked her, sent threatening messages, and clung to the belief that she still belonged to him. He paid her $1,000 a month post-divorce, even as his financial situation deteriorated from lawsuits and mounting debts. Then on June 12, 1994, the unthinkable happened. Nicole Brown and her friend Ron Goldman were found brutally murdered outside her home. The gruesome scene ignited the trial of the century. Though Simpson was acquitted in the criminal case, the 1997 civil trial awarded $33.5 million in damages to the victims' families, financially crippling him and erasing any remaining goodwill from the public. O.J.'s tale is not just one of domestic chaos, it is a haunting chronicle of fame gone wrong, of unchecked obsession, and of how a once-adored sports hero fell from grace. Nicole's appearance had nothing to do with the tragedy. It was everything underneath: control, ego, and a love that turned fatal. James Brown. James Brown, known as the hardest working man in show business, reshaped American music with his electrifying stage presence, funk-infused rhythms, and relentless work ethic. From Papa's Got a Brand New Bag to I Got You, I Feel Good, Brown was a cultural titan. But behind the bright lights and sequined suits was a deeply troubled personal life, especially his explosive marriage to Adrienne Rodriguez. In 1984, Brown married Adrienne, a backstage worker and aspiring model. She wasn't the glamorous diva fans might expect. Her appearance was often mocked by the press, with critics calling her too rough for a global superstar. But what made headlines wasn't her looks. It was the chaos that followed their union. Almost from the start, the marriage was combustible. The couple lived in a swirl of lavish parties, drug binges, and constant volatility. Both were arrested in 1988 for drug possession, with police finding them in a home littered with narcotics. Friends described their relationship as two fuses waiting to blow. Fights frequently turned physical. Adrian accused Brown of beating her, while he later filed complaints against her for assault as well. Adrian's spending habits were equally destructive. She splurged on designer clothes, luxury cars, and five-star getaways, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars annually, even as Brown struggled to stay afloat. Facing tax liens and lawsuits, Brown's financial empire crumbled, while Adrienne drained resources on beauty treatments, jewelry, and club appearances. By the mid-1990s, James Brown's health was deteriorating, and his career had hit turbulence. Still, Adrienne remained in the spotlight, appearing with him at events even as whispers of divorce loomed. Then in 1996, tragedy struck. Adrienne died unexpectedly due to complications from a cosmetic surgery gone wrong. Her death was ruled accidental, but many close to Brown believed years of drug abuse and emotional stress had weakened her body beyond repair. Brown never fully recovered. Though he lived until 2006, the decade after Adrienne's death was marked by declining health, legal troubles, and paranoia. He remained guarded about his feelings for her, a woman who had both shared his stage and nearly destroyed him. Their relationship remains one of the most tumultuous unions in music history, a tale of fame, excess, and emotional implosion. For a man who sang about feeling good, James Brown's marriage to Adrienne was anything but a tragic dance that ended in silence, not song. Quincy Jones. Quincy Jones is a name etched in every chapter of 20th century music. As the producer behind Michael Jackson's Thriller, a collaborator with legends like Frank Sinatra, and a tireless advocate for black artists, Quincy's influence reaches far beyond genres. But while his professional life was a masterclass in success, his marriage to actress Peggy Lipton revealed the painful cost of misplaced trust and public illusions. In 1974, at the height of his career, Quincy married Peggy Lipton, a white actress known for her role in The Mod Squad. Their union was celebrated as a symbol of racial progress, a groundbreaking black-white couple in a racially tense America. But critics and fans alike questioned their chemistry. Lipton's minimal fashion presence and unconventional looks didn't match the Hollywood trophy wife image many expected for a man of Jones's stature. Still, Quincy loved her deeply. Together, they had two daughters, Rashida and Kidada, and for over 15 years appeared to be a stable, thriving family. But beneath the glossy facade, problems quietly simmered. Peggy's increasing obsession with material wealth and status began to take a toll. She hosted extravagant parties, bought beachfront homes, and spent endlessly on jewelry and designer clothes, all funded by Quincy's earnings. By the late 1980s, as Quincy juggled global music ventures, financial stress began creeping in. Then came the most painful blow: word spread that Peggy had engaged in an affair with a fellow actor. Friends confirmed it wasn't just gossip. Quincy, devastated but discreet, filed for divorce in 1990. The settlement was staggering. Peggy walked away with an estimated $5 million in assets, along with property and royalties. Quincy, a man who had helped shape the careers of the most iconic voices in music, found himself emotionally depleted and financially wounded. Insiders said he never expected betrayal from someone he once considered his anchor. In the years that followed, Quincy focused on rebuilding. He produced award-winning projects, mentored new talent, and remained a pillar of the entertainment world. But the Lipton chapter remained a painful reminder that even geniuses can misjudge love. For Quincy Jones, who once believed deeply in the harmony of music and marriage, the dissonance that followed his relationship with Peggy was a harsh, enduring note. Gary Coleman. Gary Coleman rose to fame as a beloved child actor on the hit TV show Different Strokes, his charm and comedic timing captivating millions. But behind the iconic catchphrase, What you talking about, Willis, was a life riddled with exploitation, illness, and tragedy. His adult years were a stark contrast to his television success, none more devastating than his marriage to Shannon Price, a relationship that many fans now view as his final betrayal. In 2006, Gary met Shannon Price, a white woman nearly 17 years younger, on the set of the film Church Ball. She wasn't from the spotlight, nor did she fit the image of a Hollywood power couple. Some even mocked her appearance, labeling her awkward and odd. But Gary, yearning for connection and stability, married her in 2007. It seemed like a fresh start, but within months, it turned into a nightmare. They divorced less than a year later, yet Shannon continued living with Gary under Utah's common-law marriage laws. Their relationship was marred by volatile fights, verbal abuse, and reported physical altercations. In 2008, the couple appeared on divorce court, airing their dysfunction before a national audience. Gary admitted to anger issues while Shannon portrayed herself as a reluctant caretaker, often complaining about having to mother him due to his lifelong health problems, including a congenital kidney disease and stunted growth. Friends and neighbors recounted disturbing incidents: Shannon slapping Gary in public, berating him during arguments, and living with another man while still claiming to be his wife. Gary eventually sought a restraining order against her, citing physical and emotional abuse. In 2010, Gary suffered a fatal fall in his home, resulting in a brain hemorrhage. According to medical records, he had requested to remain on life support for at least 2 weeks in such an event. But just 2 days later, Shannon authorized doctors to pull the plug. Her 911 call, where she sounded more panicked about the blood than his condition, drew widespread outrage. The aftermath was even more grotesque. Shannon attempted to claim Gary's estate using a handwritten 2007 will invalid under the law due to their prior divorce. Worse still, she secretly sold photographs of Gary on his deathbed to tabloids, profiting from his final moments. At the time of his death, Gary's net worth had dwindled to a few $1,000s. Once a millionaire, he died, broke, betrayed, and alone. His marriage to Shannon wasn't just a mismatch. It was a final chapter of exploitation in a life already filled with sorrow. The boy who once brought joy to millions spent his last years enduring a cruel relationship that cost him his dignity, peace, and ultimately his life. Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye was the poetic voice of Motown, a soul prophet whose music revealed vulnerability, sensuality, and social consciousness. Hits like "What's Going On" and "Let's Get It On" redefined American music. But while fans clung to the tenderness in his lyrics, his marriage to Anna Gordy, the sister of Motown founder Berry Gordy, revealed a private life filled with power plays, pain, and unraveling truth. The couple wed in 1963, though Anna was nearly 17 years Marvin's senior. Critics often questioned their compatibility, pointing to their generational gap and her cold demeanor. Some called her stern-faced, a woman whose influence outweighed her warmth. Yet Marvin, ambitious and seeking approval within the Motown machine, seemed drawn to Anna's authority and stability, at least initially. Behind closed doors, however, the relationship was riddled with manipulation and control. Anna, accustomed to the privileges of being Berry Gordy's sister, reportedly lived lavishly off Marvin's rising stardom. Luxury vehicles, extravagant clothes, and real estate flowed into her hands even as Marvin faced creative stagnation and emotional suffocation. As the 1970s unfolded, their situation grew more volatile. Marvin descended into depression, addiction, and paranoia. The couple had a son, Marvin Gaye III, but years later it was revealed that he was the biological child of Anna's niece, Denise Gordy. Anna and Marvin had adopted him to conceal the truth, a secret that would further fracture their trust. By 1977, after 14 years of escalating conflict, Marvin could no longer maintain the charade. Their divorce was finalized, but Anna exacted a heavy price. She demanded the proceeds from Marvin's next album. Desperate to pay off over $600,000 in settlement costs, Gaye created Here. My Dear, an emotional, scathing musical autobiography that laid bare every wound their marriage left behind. Though the album initially flopped commercially, it later gained critical acclaim as one of the most brutally honest breakup records ever produced. Post-divorce, Marvin's life spiraled further. Financial ruin, drug abuse, and artistic struggles consumed him, culminating in his tragic death in 1984, shot by his own father during a domestic dispute. Marvin's bond with Anna wasn't built on beauty or romance. It was a collision of ambition, control, and suppressed pain. Their marriage, wrapped in industry politics and personal dysfunction, became the starting point of a downward spiral that even music couldn't mend. For a man who made millions feel, Marvin Gaye endured a love that left him hollow. Smokey Robinson. Smokey Robinson's velvet voice helped define the Motown era. With timeless hits like Cruisin' and Tracks of My Tears, he became a symbol of romantic lyricism and soul refinement. But while fans swooned to his melodies, few realized that his own marriage to Claudette Rogers, his Miracles bandmate, was far from the love story his lyrics promised. Their nearly three-decade union, often romanticized in public, became a tangled saga of quiet betrayals, emotional distance, and hidden resentment. Smokey and Claudette married in 1959 at the height of the Miracles' rise. As Motown's first lady, Claudette broke ground for female performers, but over time the limelight proved more curse than blessing. Though once dubbed the golden couple, they were anything but perfect behind the scenes. Claudette, who some in the media criticized for lacking traditional glamour, often clashed with Smokey over his demanding tour schedule and flirtations with other women. She later admitted suffering several miscarriages while trying to juggle marriage and music, a trauma that distanced them further. Meanwhile, insiders revealed that Claudette began spending heavily purchasing designer clothing, jewelry, and real estate. Friends claimed her annual expenses exceeded $200,000, forcing Smokey to dip into publishing royalties to keep up. Rumors also swirled about Claudette's involvement with an unnamed music executive, though never publicly confirmed. The trust between them fractured slowly, not in dramatic explosions, but in the silent erosion of intimacy. Their home became more like a business partnership than a sanctuary. By the 1980s, the pair had grown emotionally detached. In 1986, they divorced quietly without media drama, but the financial split was staggering. Claudette walked away with $3 million and a significant share of Smokey's royalties from the Miracles catalog. For Smokey, who had spent decades crafting some of music's most delicate love songs, the heartbreak was immense. Though he continued to tour and release solo albums, fans noticed a shift. His lyrics became more introspective, less hopeful. He admitted in later interviews that the divorce shook him deeply, not just financially, but spiritually. The man who gave the world ballads of timeless devotion lived through a relationship that offered neither consistency nor comfort. Smokey Robinson's marriage to Claudette was a haunting reminder that even the most melodic voices can't always orchestrate a happy ending. Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali floated like a butterfly and stung like a bee, not just in the ring, but across history. With charisma, courage, and poetic bravado, he transcended boxing to become a global icon. But behind the bluster and glory was a brief, disastrous marriage that struck him harder than any punch ever could. In 1964, fresh off his historic victory over Sonny Liston, 22-year-old Ali met cocktail waitress Sanji Roy. She was young, vivacious, and unapologetically modern, qualities that captivated the new world champion. They married later that same year in what appeared to be a whirlwind romance. However, the union quickly disintegrated, becoming one of the shortest and most chaotic chapters of Ali's life. Sanji didn't align with the Nation of Islam's strict lifestyle rules, which Ali had recently adopted. She refused to conform to conservative dress codes and religious customs. Friends recalled her attending social events and revealing outfits, triggering backlash from Ali's inner circle. The press mocked the mismatch, with critics calling Sanji ill-suited for Ali's devout new persona. Meanwhile, Sanji began spending lavishly, reportedly racking up tens of thousands of dollars in shopping and travel expenses. As Ali focused on his spiritual transformation and training, she immersed herself in parties and material comforts. Rumors of infidelity emerged, whispers of Sanji's involvement with a prominent sports figure, though never confirmed, rattled the boxer deeply. The final blow came as Ali faced his greatest professional and personal battle, his refusal to be drafted into the Vietnam War. Sanji, rather than offering support, filed for divorce in 1966. The timing devastated Ali. Already stripped of his boxing license and publicly vilified, he now had to cope with a public betrayal from the woman he thought would stand by him. The divorce settlement included a financial payout, rumored to be substantial, though exact figures remain undisclosed. What's clear is that the emotional toll was enormous. Friends said Ali felt abandoned when he needed someone most, a man at war with his country faith and now his own heart. Though Ali would later remarry and find greater personal peace, the Sanji Roy chapter remains a painful detour, a tale of clashing values, unmet expectations, and a marriage that fell apart faster than any of his legendary fights. For a man who defined endurance and grace under pressure, that 17-month union became one of his most devastating defeats. Lionel Richie. Lionel Richie's voice was the soundtrack of the 1980s. From Hello to All Night Long, his ballads made him a global sensation and a symbol of romantic devotion. But behind the polished charm and Grammy-winning hits was a home life unraveling in chaos, a long and messy marriage to Brenda Harvey that ended with scandal, violence, and a shattered image. Lionel met Brenda while both were students at Tuskegee University. She wasn't a model or actress, but a classmate with a strong personality and a fierce loyalty to Lionel's early ambitions. They married in 1975 and later adopted Nicole Richie, daughter of one of Lionel's bandmates, raising her as their own. For years, they appeared to be a stable, supportive couple until Lionel's solo stardom sent everything spinning. As Richie's fame soared in the 80s, so did temptation. With endless tours, music videos, and female attention, Lionel began an affair with dancer Diane Alexander. For Brenda, the betrayal was too much. In 1988, she tracked him down at Diane's Beverly Hills apartment, and what followed made headlines around the country. Brenda assaulted both Lionel and Diane, prompting police to arrest her for trespassing, vandalism, and spousal battery. The incident was a turning point. Brenda's image quickly collapsed. She was painted as violent and jealous, while Lionel was portrayed as the wounded star. But the story wasn't so simple. Insiders revealed that Brenda had grown increasingly resentful of Lionel's emotional distance and accused him of funding Diane's lavish lifestyle while she managed the home. When they divorced in 1993, Brenda walked away with a significant financial settlement. While exact figures remain sealed, estimates suggest she received several $1 million in assets, including properties and spousal support. Nicole stayed primarily with Brenda, though she remained close to Lionel. The scandal impacted Lionel's reputation. While his music remained beloved, his public image suffered. His next albums didn't reach the same heights, and his personal life remained under scrutiny for years. Some fans blamed Brenda. Others saw her as a woman driven to the edge by fame's emotional neglect. For Lionel Richie, the marriage to Brenda Harvey was a lesson in the high cost of stardom's double life. It wasn't just about infidelity or appearances, it was about promises, broken resentments buried too long, and a love that couldn't survive the spotlight. Behind the smile and smooth voice was a man reeling from the storm he helped create. Miles Davis. Miles Davis, the revolutionary jazz trumpeter behind albums like Kind of Blue and Bitches Brew, was more than a musical genius. He was an icon of innovation, rebellion, and raw emotion. But his personal life was as turbulent as his soundscapes. His final marriage to the legendary actress Cicely Tyson was supposed to be a redemptive chapter. Instead, it exposed hidden fractures and pushed Miles further into emotional isolation. Davis and Tyson married in 1981 after years of friendship and romantic tension. To the outside world, it looked like a union of black excellence, a creative titan, and a revered actress celebrated for her poise and strength. Yet whispers began almost immediately. Cicely, known for her elegance and activism, clashed with Miles's lingering demon's addiction, mood swings, and paranoia. Their differences ran deep, and so did their secrets. Though many viewed Cicely as the one who helped Miles beat his drug addiction, those close to him claimed the relationship turned transactional. Miles had cleaned up physically, but emotionally, he was fragile. Tyson's involvement in the high art world brought pressures of its own. Insiders alleged she spent heavily funding art installations, elite fashion, and global travel that put a dent in Miles's already strained finances. By the mid-1980s, their marriage grew colder. Davis's friends revealed he suspected Cicely of having an affair with a Hollywood director. While unproven, the suspicion tore at their trust. Miles, never one to bottle his fury, retreated into silence, sometimes refusing to speak to her for days. When they divorced in 1988, Cicely reportedly received over $2 million in the settlement alongside other shared assets. The separation shook Davis to his core. Already facing health complications and declining performance energy, he now had to rebuild emotionally and financially. Even years later, Miles rarely spoke of Cicely in public. When he did, it was with mixed emotions, gratitude for her early support and bitterness for how things ended. He continued to work, but the magic of his final years was often muted by lingering heartbreak and regrets. The Davis-Tyson marriage was a collision of brilliance and burdens of two icons who couldn't find rhythm in their private duet. For Miles, it was a final painful lesson that even genius can't protect you from betrayal, and not every beautiful performance makes for a beautiful life. Hank Aaron. Hank Aaron broke records, barriers, and expectations. As the man who surpassed Babe Ruth's long-standing home run record in 1974, Aaron stood tall as a symbol of perseverance and grace in the face of brutal racism and public pressure. But while he remained composed on the field, his personal life, especially his nearly two-decade marriage to Barbara Lucas, unraveled in ways that few fans ever saw coming. Aaron and Barbara married in the late 1950s, long before his rise to baseball immortality. Their union was once seen as a model of the classic American family, supportive, steady, and grounded in tradition. They had 4 children and shared a home built on Aaron's growing fame. But behind that image was a marriage filled with neglect, emotional isolation, and unspoken betrayal. As Aaron chased history, Barbara's dissatisfaction began to show. Friends from the Atlanta community revealed that she often complained about being left behind emotionally and physically while Aaron toured with the team. Her spending escalated quickly. High-end fashion, luxury homes, and expensive social events became routine. It's estimated she spent hundreds of thousands of dollars from Hank's endorsements and salary, much of it without his knowledge. What devastated Aaron even more was what came next. In the early 1970s, just as he was nearing the historic home run milestone, rumors began surfacing that Barbara was involved in an affair with a local businessman. The whispers hit him hard. At a time when Aaron was receiving death threats for daring to break Ruth's record, the betrayal from inside his home felt like a personal ambush. Barbara filed for divorce in 1971, just 3 years before Hank's crowning achievement. The timing shattered him. As he stood on the brink of baseball immortality, his private life collapsed. The divorce settlement reportedly cost Aaron a substantial portion of his wealth. Though the exact figure remains undisclosed, those close to the couple confirm that it severely strained his finances. While the public focused on his triumphs, few knew the price he paid to get there. Hank Aaron continued to carry himself with dignity, remarried in 1973, and spent his post-career years as a philanthropist and MLB executive. But those who knew him well said he never fully recovered from the heartbreak. For all his strength at the plate, Aaron couldn't defend himself from the wounds inflicted at home. His story is a powerful reminder that greatness often comes at a personal cost, and not every betrayal is seen under stadium lights. Al Green. Al Green's voice became the soundtrack of love during the 1970s, with hits like Let's Stay Together and Love and Happiness. His silky falsetto made him one of the most recognizable and celebrated R&B artists in history. But behind the smooth sound and soulful lyrics was a personal life haunted by a marriage that drained his spirit and nearly wrecked his career, a union with Shirley Kiles that many now see as his most damaging relationship. Green met Shirley in the early 1970s as his stardom was exploding. Though not a model or industry insider, she captured his attention with her charm and poise. They married in 1977 at what seemed to be the height of his success. But what started as a romantic union quickly devolved into a nightmare that stripped him emotionally, spiritually, and financially. From the beginning, the marriage was rocky. Green, newly devoted to his faith and shifting toward gospel music, found himself constantly at odds with Shirley's increasing demands for luxury and control. Friends recalled Shirley growing frustrated with Al's spiritual pivot and declining commercial output. She reportedly demanded expensive clothes, high-end real estate, and frequent vacations, at times spending upward of $100,000 a year. In 1983, Shirley filed for divorce. The proceedings were deeply painful for Green, who was already grappling with lawsuits and the financial toll of transitioning away from secular music. The court awarded Shirley a $432,800 settlement in alimony and child support, a devastating blow at a time when his income had dropped significantly. But the pain wasn't only financial. The emotional scars ran deep. Shirley later filed abuse allegations, which Green denied, but the public damage was done. The headlines hurt his reputation within both the R&B and gospel communities. While he found spiritual rebirth and a second career in gospel, even becoming a pastor, the marriage to Shirley was a shadow he never fully escaped. Al Green's soulful ballads spoke of enduring love, but his real-life marriage proved the opposite, a relationship driven by control, resentment, and unmet expectations. For a man who gave voice to generations of lovers, his own experience was one of loss, not just of money, but of trust, peace, and direction. His story serves as a cautionary tale of how even icons of love can fall victim to the wrong kind of devotion, one that erodes from the inside out, leaving only echoes of what could have been. Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman wasn't just a basketball player, he was a cultural phenomenon. Known for his fierce defense, outlandish style, and unpredictable behavior, Rodman earned 5 NBA championships and a place in the Hall of Fame. But away from the court, his impulsiveness led him into one of the most volatile celebrity marriages of the 1990s, a 6-month roller coaster with actress Carmen Electra. Rodman met Electra in 1998 at a Los Angeles party. The chemistry was instant and wild. Just months later, the pair eloped in Las Vegas in a surprise ceremony that shocked the media. Carmen, best known for Baywatch and Playboy covers, was often ridiculed for her looks during this period, with tabloids calling her plastic and overdone. Critics questioned how someone like Rodman, already known for unconventional behavior, could take a relationship seriously with someone many dismissed as a manufactured Hollywood beauty. The marriage itself was even more chaotic than their courtship. Within weeks, they were involved in public shouting matches, and just 2 months after the wedding, they were both arrested following a violent altercation at a hotel in Newport Beach. Police reports described broken furniture, screaming, and physical injuries. Carmen was accused of scratching Rodman while he was reportedly intoxicated and enraged. The media had a field day. Financially, their union was a disaster. Carmen's love for designer fashion and luxurious getaways clashed with Rodman's already unstable income. By the late 1990s, his NBA contracts were drying up and he was barely holding on to endorsements. Friends said Carmen's spending racked up hundreds of thousands of dollars in personal bills, further sinking Rodman's finances. In 1999, just 6 months after their impulsive wedding, the marriage ended in divorce. The split included a settlement reportedly in the 6-figure range that Rodman was in no position to pay comfortably. He soon found himself spiraling further into debt, legal issues, and rehab visits. To this day, Rodman looks back at the Carmen Electra chapter as one of the most unstable periods of his life. Their union was short, but the damage lasted years, not just financially, but emotionally and reputationally. What started as a passionate fling ended as a cautionary tale of how fame, excess, and unchecked emotion can wreck lives in record time. Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy ruled the 1980s and 1990s like few others. From Saturday Night Live to blockbusters like Coming to America and Beverly Hills Cop, he was a comedy king with a Midas touch. But off-screen, his 13-year marriage to Nicole Mitchell Murphy became a modern Hollywood tragedy, a cautionary tale of betrayal, wealth loss, and a love that dissolved under the weight of fame. Murphy met Nicole at an NAACP Image Awards show in 1988. She was a striking model, but not without criticism. Some in the industry whispered that she lacked the refined beauty typical of Hollywood elites, calling her overly bold in appearance. Still, Eddie was smitten. They married in 1993 and quickly built what looked like a dream life: 5 children, red carpet appearances, and sprawling estates in Beverly Hills. But trouble loomed behind the scenes. Murphy's demanding filming schedule often left Nicole alone for weeks at a time, and trust eroded. By the early 2000s, rumors swirled that Nicole was having an affair with a high-profile music executive, a betrayal that stunned Eddie and his inner circle. In 2005, their divorce went public, and by 2006, it was finalized. Nicole received one of the most staggering settlements in entertainment history: $15 million, plus nearly $5,000 a month in child support. The financial blow came at a difficult time. Eddie had recently starred in box office flops like The Adventures of Pluto Nash, and his career was on shaky ground. Post-divorce, Nicole lived lavishly, purchasing Chanel handbags, traveling globally, and making headlines for her luxury lifestyle. Eddie, on the other hand, kept a low profile, diving back into film to recoup losses and maintain support for his large family. Though Murphy eventually rebounded with hits like Dreamgirls and Dolomite Is My Name, the marriage to Nicole remains a significant chapter in his life, one defined not by glamour, but by legal battles and emotional weariness. For a man who built his fortune making people laugh, Eddie Murphy's most painful story played out off-screen, in the courtroom, in the press, and in the silence of a family torn apart. These 15 stories prove that behind fame, fortune, and headlines about ugly wives lies something far deeper: betrayal, manipulation, and emotional collapse. It's not about appearances, it's about the wreckage some marriages left behind. Were these unions doomed from the start, or were these legends simply blinded by love? At Legends of Black Excellence, we bring the full truth to light. Do you believe public perception played a role in these tragic endings, or were the warning signs always there? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more untold stories.